of it comes down a step the way it is, and the same thing is by do or by ksiva, when you write it down, it's even a lower level of your machshava the way it comes in. Just a similar idea. That's all.
Page 23.
Right. And then we spoke about last week about that the name everything is called in Lashon HaKodesh is that's where it gets its highest from. We spoke about Adam Rishon. That's what Adam Rishon's milo was, that he gave everything a name, as you can see where its highest come from. And it's not only animals, it's also really people. That's why also if somebody's sick, and they add a name because every person's name is where they're getting their highs from. So that was all last week. This week we're going to go back to a little bit we said last week, and we're going to explain it more. So we spoke about last week about the domim, right? That we said that even in domim, Hashem is giving chayas to it. Hashem, it's
even the stone has a chayas.
Even the stone has a chayas, right? Everybody's using different tanyas, but
Just tell me the first one.
Vafilu aretz halazu agashmis. Shagam b'domim mamish k'mei avonim v'afar amayim yesh b'chinas nefesh v'chayis ruchnius.
Well, that's 21. In the middle of the text.
21?
No, by hand. Yeah.
So the question is like this. We said that what's Alter Rebbe bringing this for to explain that even in domim, we said you don't see any chayis in, and even in a domim you don't see any chayis. There's still Hashem is even that this needs to havos, it needs to be created every moment, and if Hashem stops creating it, then it goes back to being nothing. The only problem is if you look at what the Alter Rebbe says, Shegam b'domim mamish, even in domim ka'avonim va'afar mayim yesh b'chinas nefesh chayis ruchnis. And then he continues on. The Hainu b'chinas hislabshus oisius adibu ma'asam amaris. Where's it getting its chayis from the asam amaris? Hamachayis u'mahavis. That's adomim. There's two things. There's number one that it's giving a chayis, and number two that it's creating it. So we were speaking about last week that it's being mahava, that it's getting created through the asam amaris. So what's this chayis that a domim has?
What going?
Right.
What's the stone going?
Yeah, stone is something that there's no chayis in it. So what's that? Well, no gashmistic chayis that's making it grow.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but it exists. If it exists, it's fine.
Well, that's what we're going to explain. Yeah.
A tree has more chayis.
A tree is
you see it going. Stone, you don't see it going, but it's chayis. Otherwise, it would nothing.
Right. There's domim tameach medaber. There's people. There's animals. Animals also grow in them. There's tameach things, flowers, plants, and then there's domim. Stones, salt. I don't know what else is a domim. Anything that doesn't grow. Metal.
Earth.
Oh, exactly.
But it could maybe it benefits us, so that's higher.
Saying eventually
it itself is
right,
but it's not like everything else. But that's why it's the lowest level.
Right. But yeah, then we can use it to grow. Yeah, but it itself is. So it's like this. The Chiddush of the Baal Shem Tov, what we understood till now was the idea of his havos, that everything has to be created at every moment. But there's a second Chiddush over here, and that's what you were saying before, that everything is getting chayas. So every creation has two things. There's number one that it exists, right? Everything we see exists, and that's the same by every single creation. Every single thing exists.
It just doesn't have a nefesh.
Right, it doesn't have a nefesh. But yeah, but then there's a second thing that everything has its own individual its own individual makeup. Why?
Right.
Right. Well, anything you see, yeah, you have two animals, let's say a cow and a horse. They both exist, but then they also have the thing that makes them different. That makes sense? So when we say that Chiddush of the Baal Shem Tov was the two things. The number one is his havos, that everything has to be created at every moment, and number two is that everything's getting its each individual chayis. So it's like this. Now this is a big chiddush. Why? Because normally, if you're going to say that Hashem is just creating everything, then what's Hashem's create? What's the connection between everything and Hashem? It's just to the Messias of it. It's just Hashem's connection to the things that Hashem created and that it exists.
Like,
But if you're saying that Hashem's mechaya everything, Hashem's giving chayas to everything, then Hashem's not only connected to the fact that it exists, but Hashem's connected to what the thing is. It's making sense, or
in other words, you want to say there's Hashem in the stone, in the wood, in the
right?
every little thing. This Hashem is there.
Yeah, not just that the fact that it exists, but what it is. Hashem is
There's
also there's Hashem there. Now, what's creating the different things? Why is it some things are this and some things that? Why does everything have a different tochen? So it explains, just like a person, what does a person speak? He speaks. A person has his seichel and his midas. He has eser kofes, chacham bin adas, all of those seichel and midas, and when he speaks, he expresses them. Right? So what's Hashem? When we say Hashem created through the Asamimars? What's Hashem saying? Hashem is speaking about the Asamimars. It's about the Esespheres, right? So that's where everything is coming from. Esespheres, right? Like for example, we say that Mayim is from Chesed. What's Chesed? Chesed is the idea that you're giving to somebody else. And that's obviously in Ruchni. So when the way it comes down into Gashmi, is that water always goes down to a lower level. That's the idea of Mayim. We say that Aish is from Gvura. Those are those things that then obviously everything else is also from the Esespheres, not as clearly, but everything comes from the Esespheres. That's what's creating. That's why everything, there's no two things that are exactly the same, because everything's coming from the Esespheres, and the way it comes out is different.
Even now, when the snow outside, like these billions and billions of different snows, each snow is different than the other.
Yeah. Sand is the same.
What?
Sand.
No,
Sand are the same. Different.
sand is all the same.
It's all the same.
They have different colors sometimes, but they really are the same.
But just one, we're saying about the chayis that comes into everything. We're not saying that there is. Let's say a body, right? You have a body, and the body has chayis, right? So the chayis, it's not like there's a body and then there's also chayis.
This is the body.
This is the body, yeah. What's a person? A person is a body with chayis. So we're saying when Hashem's giving chayis to everything, then it's not like Hashem's creating something, and then there's also another thing that's giving a chayis. Hashem, like the way that Hashem gives chayis to everything, that is giving it. That's what it is, and that's the chiddush of Hashem. That not only is Hashem creating everything, but everything what it is, Hashem's giving chayis to it at every moment. And that's also, if you look at the Alter Rebbe, if you look in Tanya, what we just read before, the Alter Rebbe says that that's why it's hamachayis, it's giving chayis to make it exist. It's giving chayis for the second thing we said, which is giving it its own identity. Or mahavas is also creating it. And also says that the hainu b'chinas is slabshus ha'osis hadiru, that it's being mislabish. Because it's not like there's Hashem's creating it and something else is coming and creating it, but it's part of the thing itself. The chayis is what the thing is. Like we said a minute ago with the body, that the body is a chayis in the person. That's the first thing. Last week we spoke about how we asked the question. How we said that why does the Alter Rebbe write or Pirush Baal Shem Tov that it's a chiddush of the Baal Shem Tov, and really we say a similar thing is in the Medrash. So we gave a few different answers last week. We said that number one, Pirush Baal Shem Tov, we said because we find it in other places that we said Shmuel HaKatan used to say "Bin Levecha al Tismach," and we gave. So why is it Shmuel HaKatan? We said because Shmuel HaKatan used to say it a lot, and we also said we gave another answer. We said that just like we find in Rashi, that Rashi wanted to start off with something for his father, so he started with Amar Yitzchak. So he said the same thing that the Alter Rebbe wanted to start with something for the Baal Shem Tov. So that's why he started with Pirush Baal Shem Tov. But this is really a much deeper thing that there's a real chiddush over here. Because the Medrash is only speaking about the Savos that there's being created every moment. But the fact that there's chayis, that Hashem is giving chayis to make every single thing, that's a chiddush of the Baal Shem. That's the first thing.
What's the chayes given to the diamond?
What is the chayis given to it?
Besides existing.
The fact that it's a stone. I think that's if there was no chayis, it wouldn't be a stone.
What?
As in, what would it be if Hashem didn't give a chayis?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Or it's stone.
Yeah,
What's mine?
but I think the way it would definitely be different than how we know what an Evan is.
It wouldn't exist.
No, but it would. If Hashem created it, but He didn't give a
I mean, it's
chayis,
a separate thing. It's not like a tree is existing and it's alive.
I think.
Yeah.
But
The stone you don't see. Okay, create the stone. That's it. And then what? It's stone stay. Doesn't need to be
Right.
highest to it. Doesn't it? No, but he said no. You give highest to it. Otherwise, it would not be a stone.
but it's still a diamond. Nothing happens with it.
Fine, but that itself is also
I think maybe it's true. I think maybe it could be a stone, as in, but it could either be a stone. That's just what happens to it. I think this is where the Baal Shem Tov of Hashgacha practices
that
every single thing.
has-
Otherwise, you could think Hashem created something and it just happened to be on the floor, and therefore it
No.
happens to be.
right.
I think that's where the Hashgacha practice comes in. That every single prat that Hashem created, why is this a stone? Because that's what Hashem's giving a chayis for. Hashem's
It made
Something.
this to be a water, and it made this to be a stone, and this
A
to be
stone is a house for a scorpion. There is uses for it. It's not
we
just
live in a
nothing.
stone also. Our house is also.
I'm saying
our system
that's what I'm
is
saying.
also
It
made
has a
out of stone.
chayus that it does something for us.
right, but that's it could still do something for us, but
We also live in a stone, right? The house made out of stone. We live in a dream,
Yeah,
but we give house to the house. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a house. We wouldn't call it house.
right.
Okay, it's made a point.
right.
And he said, why they have to bring avonim off or mine back? Why you have to bring all three? Doesn't explain.
You heard anything? You know anything?
No.
You're only talking about the stone.
Yeah. I don't know. We speak out the stone normally. I don't know why it has to bring three. So now later on in a few lines, then we said like this. Afterwards, and we asked if we're saying now that everything has to get this havos, so everything needs creation every second from the Asar Mamaris. We asked the question now what the Afshloi Husva Shem Evan Ba'asar Mamaris. So now we don't see that Evan is mentioned in Asar Mamaris. So where's that? Where's it getting?
How do you exist?
So how does it exist, right? So we explain that it's getting through the Tzurufim and the Now the question is, why is Al Rebbe bringing this here? This is not a question. It's not a Tanya question. It's not. You don't only have this question if you say that this Havot is the Cholreta. This question, if you learn the Mishnah and you learn that everything was created through the Asar Mamaris, then you're going to have this question: now, what about things that aren't created in the Asar Mamaris? It's not a question based on Tanya. Yeah.
Right?
What's the benefit
Of
of being the non
Heaven, heaven, stone. You hear here is something that is created from Asar Mamaris. And let's say stone is something that's not created. So the question is, let's say a stone, where's it getting it's where's it getting, how's it being created? Because we've spoken about that every Asar Mamaris is recreating everything at every moment. So if something's not in Asar Mamaris, then how's it being created?
Would that question also apply to the technology of today, or that's in the set?
Yeah, the same thing.
Like man-made, but man.
Saying it's coming from something else. You're saying what's made from other things that are mentioned in Asar Mamaris. Not sure.
Again, what's the question?
Saying is everything, let's say, it's not only techno, anything
Man-made product.
anything that's made from more than one thing,
Yeah.
what has to be mentioned in Asar Mamaris? The thing itself or the things that it's made up of?
The thing itself.
The thing itself.
Sure.
So then, yeah, then So asking here that we're saying that why is this question a question in Shaar HaYichud? Why is Alter bringing it here? This is a question you learn the Mishnah about Asam Amaris. So based on what we just explained before, that I'm not sure if this is working or not. Okay, wait. Based on what we just explained before, that there's two that the Baal Shem Tov has two chedushim. That number one, that this is havos, and number two, that there's the koyach is mislabish into every nivra.
Right.
So if it's mitzad his havos that Hashem is creating every moment, then it could be how's Hashem going to create the world? Hashem will create one koyach doti model, and that's going to create everything. And that's going to create everything. But since the Baal Shem Tov said, what's the chiddush of the Baal Shem Tov that there's has to be koyach in every single thing, every individual thing, then you have a question. Now, what about something that's not mentioned in the Asam Amaris?
If it's not mentioned, right?
Because only after you have the chiddush of the Baal Shem Tov that every single prat has to be mentioned because everything is getting its own individual chayis, then you have this question about things that aren't mentioned in the Asam Amaris.
Right. How they exist?
How do they exist? Because before that, if it's only about his havos, then it could be one koyach legal, and that koyach is just creating everything. Right?
L'chura.
So now after we have the Baal Shem Tov Chiddush, then that's going to make that and now after we say that everything has to be everything is that Hashem's creating and giving everything its own chayis, then we have to figure out where does it come from. So we explain that it comes through through Tzerufim and through Gematris, and we see a similar thing that later on, which we didn't reach to the end of the parak yet, so maybe we should reach to the end of the parak, and then let's go back to where did we get up to last week?
Finish by group arguments.
We read till the end.
Yeah.
So a similar thing was that we find out the last line. The last line says that it says that as Asar Mamarish Shabbat Sheyesh Bohem Koyach v'Chayis Livre Yesh Me'ayin Alachiyosei Lo'ilam Da'Raisa v'Kitchabrichu Kol Achad. That how is it possible? How the Asar Mamarish is able to create? So we say because they've been Torah and Torah Kitchabrichu Kol Achad. Since Torah and Hashem are one, that's why they're able to create. So the question is, why do we need to say that over here? Why is that a question based on Tanya? It's a question, a general question.
In the Mishnah, it says that someone was Nikolai.
Yeah, same question. Yeah. So why is Alter everything in here?
Make it obvious, right?
So based on what we said again, is you can based on what?
Einstein.
Based on what we said before, right? So based on what we said before, we can also understand because based on what we said before that there's not only let's take it back, go back a step. There's Pelach Harim by Hillel Parcher. Hillel Parcher was one of the biggest cinema Alter Rebbe, and he wrote a sefer Pelach Harim. And Pelach Harim, he explains that in order to create Yesh Me'ayin, it can only come through Koyach Atzmos. So what does that mean? That in order to create, you have to come to Atzmos. So that's why we have to say that what it has to be getting chayis from Torah. Now the question is that doesn't help us without questions. So still, why do we need this over here? It's based on what we just explained before that Hashem's giving chayis to every individual thing on its level, and then it seems like that the way it's getting chayis is not coming from Torah anymore. It's coming through many tzimtzumim and everything. So if it's only coming after many tzimtzumim, then how's it able to create? So that's what Alter Rebbe is saying, that since it's written in Torah, and in Torah, since it's coming from Torah, even after it goes through many tzimtzumim, it's still able to create. So that's again why the Alter Rebbe brings it here, because only after the chiddush of the Baal Shem Tov, that each individual thing needs its own chayis, and in its own chayis, after it needs its own chayis, and it has to come through many tzimtzumim, then we have to understand that how the Asar Mamarish is able to create. So that's why the Alter Rebbe is saying that it comes through a rice of since it's in Torah, then it can create. I saw a story a few days ago.
How they get rice?
Because Torah Torah Hashem.
Oh, there was a time there was not there. Then he was giving it there. So.
Okay, that's I'll find Shan Nakan.
It's a this is giving highest, but what give this the highest? The
Right.
Eberstein, the Eberstein.
There's one. I saw a story a few days ago that
How's the notion מסתכל ברויסה בו Olmo?
yeah, saying how to yeah, exactly.
מסתכל ברויסה בו.
Yeah. I saw a story a few days ago that everything I said now wasn't my Chiddushim. It's all from the Sefer. The Sefer is from Yoel Khan used to give Shurim on the phone on the phone once, I think once a week, every day. And they put it together and they made it into a book, basically. They took his recordings. So there's a story that a person was learning and he came and he said, I have a big Chiddush. And he said it, and the person said, it's a big Chiddush, you're right. Because it says, Hakol Nitna, Kol Masha Talmud Vasa Kasa Tzfadesh, Hakol Nitna, and Moshe, you see now, anything that a person's going to come up with, it's already been said to Moshe. And he said, what you said wasn't even said to Moshe. In other words, it didn't make any sense. So I hope I didn't say any Chidushim over here. I hope I was just trying to say what it says in here. Show any Chidushim, then. I was going to say, there was a story with the Biel Khan that he used to go to Williamsburg to give a share. I think Bar Park, maybe both. I think Bar Park, actually, to give Chassidish shiurim. And it's mainly to Yeshiva Bachran.
Lakewood.
Like, we went everywhere. Lakewood?
Yeah, we're about curve.
Anyway, he would always have a group, and there was always one student that never came because he needed to sit in Gemara or whatever. Fine. Anyways, one time this Bachar came up to him and he said, I need you to arrange for me Yechidus. So, okay, he went and whatever. Obviously, it was very hard because there was never any time in Yechidus to arrange Yechidus. And somehow he pushed him in. And this Bachar came in, he went in for a few minutes and he came out and he said, I'm never going back in. So everyone kind of said, hey, what did the Rebbe say? Maybe tell me and then I can explain it to you. He said, no, I'm not telling you. I'm never going back in. Okay, that was the end of the story. Anyways, 15, 20 years later, he's walking down in Kern Heights somewhere, and somebody comes up to him and he says, do you recognize me? He said, I'm that bacher that we went in, whatever, you arranged for me to go into Yechidus. So he said, okay, what happened? So he said, I went into Yechidus, and the Rebbe I asked a few questions, and the Rebbe told me, based on how you're learning,
Because you're not learning Chassidus,
yeah, because you're not learning Chassidus, then
that's why you understand it more.
right. And if in order to understand, you have to learn Chassidus, then you'll be able to learn Torah Lishma. And the Rebbe explained, what does Lishma mean? The Rebbe said, not that you're learning because you're going to become a gadol or any other self-reason. That even in Kedusha, doesn't mean because you want to connect to the Eibishter. The Rebbe gave an example of like a child that runs to his father. He's not running to his father because he wants anything. He's running to his father because it's his father. He said, that's how you have to learn Torah. And he said the Rebbe kept pushing him to learn Chassidus, and he didn't want to listen. So when he came out, then he said, I'm never going back in. And he said, anyways, he went back to Yeshiva, and once he asked a question, and they all made fun of him, and he asked something else happened, and they started making fun of him. So he started slowly, eventually went down, and anyways, a few years later, he said he was listening, he saw an ad about a Yutas Kislev upbringing. So he decided he'll go, and he went, and he came in, and the Rebbe was speaking about no matter how far a person goes, they can always come back. And the Rebbe said, especially if it's somebody that learned a lot of Torah in the past, and he said, even though he didn't understand much else, he stayed, and then he came back again, Yot Shvat, and he came back again, Purim. And Rabbi Yochanan asked him, like, if you didn't understand anything, like, what are you coming back for? He said, I could see when the Rebbe spoke that it was a rice of B'Chabrikol Kol Echad. I could see that it was a person speaking about that by him, Yisrael, that by him, he saw that Hashem and Torah and Yisrael are all once. He kept coming back. That was just connected to this last line of Tanya.
It says so in the book.
Not in this book. I saw it.
Chabad says it.
I don't know. I saw it in. They have a book that has stories on Tanya. Misaprim with Tanya. Every parak they have a few stories. So it was on parak. It was on parak Hey. They don't have it on HaYichud. They only have it on the. I think Misaprim with Tanya.
The English translation.
Not for this book. I don't think so.
Easy Hebrew or the old?
It's pretty easy. It's mostly Hebrew. Easy Hebrew. I think Misaprim with Tanya. I think that's what it's called. It's white and green on the front. Every parak they bring a few lines from Tanya and bring stories connected to it. Actually, the first story that I said was connected to it also. Why was it connected? Because it was speaking about how, whatever. I said a story about Eliezer Elazar Midakshitz, that he said that he was very sick. And I'm just repeating it again, but he was very sick and he could only eat a little piece of bread and a cup of water, a cup of milk. And he met on the foot fast, and he on the foot fast said, "How you doing?" And he said, that my ruchni should be like my gashmis. And he said that my gashmi, at least my gashmis goes inside and comes part of me. My ruchni should also become part of me. So I was in this, I don't know, I was also connected to Parakeh, I guess the idea of Torah, that a Torah comes part of you. Anyway, that's where I know the story from. Okay, should we continue?
Yeah.
Should we move on to Parak base?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so we'll continue on. Yeah, Parak base. So Hine, Mikan Shuvas Haminim. Vigilu Shirish to Osam Hakofim Bashkacha practice of Osos for Moshe Atayra. Okay, this week we'll do again. We're just going to read through it to get a general idea of the parak. And then next week we're going to come back and we'll speak more about it. There's a lot of things to speak about. Why is Alter Rebbe speaking about the minim? There's people that Alter Rebbe starts off. This is an answer to minim. Like who brought in minim here, Bafal?
Which question they asked that
Yeah, but why they're like, it's not a way to, if they have a question and we need to come answer them saying what's happening over here. So that the people that go against Hashgacha practice. They say that Hashem made a Masha in his Vitach Beloisov. Ki kasha yetzi l'tzoref kli shuvei na kli tzoref l'dei atziduk. Ki af shiyadav misulek se meno v'hoylach lei b'shuk. Li kayim b'tav nisoi b'tzalmei mamish. Kasha yetzi midei atzoref k'dei kaf m'damenach sich l'ma'ilu masi shemayim lard. So they say, what do they say? They say, just like when a person makes a kli. Yeah, you ever go to a shop and the person makes anything, go to Brooklyn Bagels, and they make a pizza and then it comes out of the oven, what happens? The pizza's still there no matter what happened, unless the people eat it. But any kli that makes something, the kli stays how it is. Well, that's the things from, I think, Zush Banapali, I remember, that he said that he could see by a kli that if it was made by somebody missing an eye. Maybe I'm making, I don't think it was Zush Banapali.
He saw that the guy is a lefty or righty.
I thought it was missing an eye or something. But in general, a person makes a kli, the kli stays even after. So they say that the same way, the same thing is by the world, that Hashem created the world. And afterwards, Hashem, so to say, just left the world to run how it is. They didn't realize that there's a big difference between a person that makes something. Shehu yesh miyesh. Rak shemishane hatsura v'atzmuna. Litzmunas chatiches kesef litzmunas kli. Tamase shamayim v'arech shehu yesh mayay. That they didn't understand that there's a big difference. When somebody creates something in this world, they're taking a yesh, they're taking something that exists, and they're just turning it into something else. You take a table, so you're taking a piece of wood, you're taking a tree, and you're just cutting it down into different shapes. But when Hashem was creating the world, Hashem was creating a yesh miyayin. So if something's yesh miyesh, then something's already existing.
It doesn't need the highest.
Right. So that's why I can always say that Hashem is creating yesh miyayin, and Hashem has to be constantly giving it highest.
Once you create the yesh get highest also.
Right.
It's constantly mechayim. It's not that you did it.
What happens when you mix two yesh together? When you mix two yesh together, which yesh?
You make a table. There was a piece of wood. You cut it a certain way. You made a table. You made a plane. You made a computer. But you took some.
Is it a thing? It's a new yesh, or it's a connection of two different.
It was already exists. You just put it together. You made a computer. But show me a scientist that could make a wing of a bird from nothing.
Right.
You can.
Right.
You could take a metal and put a motor to it, and this you'll fly.
Right.
But from nothing to something, nobody could do it.
Right. So we're saying, yeah.
So even though it's a yesh, but the yesh also has highest constantly. If the Rebbe would take away the highest from this bottle now, it wouldn't be a bottle. It would be nothing.
Right.
So the bottle stay by itself, yeah. But something holding it to stay by itself. Chayas, the Shigir.
Right. That's
That's
continuing
the answer to
to
the
the
meaning.
meaning.
He
Yeah,
says no.
right. Because that's why yeah,
They says no. It's yes, he created, but that's it. It's
right.
by itself now.
We
Now it
have
doesn't
to,
need no Chayas from him.
yeah. Since that's because it's a yesh miyesh, but a yesh miyayin, then it needs to be yeah. And then he said, "V'hu pela gadol yosem mikriyas yamsuf adarch mashul shahoylech Hashem mesayam beruach kodim azah kol halayla v'yivaku hamayim v'nitzvo k'moy neir v'choyma v'ilu hifzik Hashem es haruach karega hoyo hamayim choyzin v'nigarim v'morid kedarkom v'tivam v'loy komo k'choyma v'li hefzik." There's a time of Kriyas Yamsuf that Hashem brought a wind and Hashem made it split. Um, right.
He made the tip of the water opposite what it is. Usually water going down, and over
Right, and that's
the
what we're going
water
to explain.
went up, stayed at Chayma.
Right, that's what we're going to explain about the Olam. That the Olam, in order for Hashem to be creating the world, the way it is, there's no world that's existing and Hashem's doing something to it. That Hashem needs to be creating it in order for it to exist. So, Afshat Teva Zeb Mayin Ganke Nivra, Chudish Yesh Meyayin.
The water going down from up down, that's a Shachudish from Hashem.
Right.
He made it, they should go from up down, not like a Esh. Esh
True,
made it to
yeah.
go down up, and Mayim made. That itself also is Rabbi Shemay.
Right.
So now he asking about Kiel Samsu, that the Tzechidush is even more.
So Sharei Chumas Avonim Nitzavis Me'atzma Beliruach Rak Sheteva Amayim in a cane. We'll just two more lines. The Kosha came up Kavachim Berias Yesh Me'ayin Shila Maila Me'ateva V'Hafle V'Pelem Chis Yamsuf Al Achas Kama Kama Shebestalkos Kech Haboyre Min Anivra Haspelim Yoshu Hanivra Layin V'Yachas Mamish El Tzarech V'Yus Kech Hapel B'Nifal Tamid V'Yus V'Lakaimei. Right. I think we should come back next week and we'll go through it. We'll go through it again.
Okay.
Yeah. Someone just finished off that it's Purim this week, so you have to have a Purim Torah. So it says that Moshe Rabbeinu was born Zayin Adar. So when was his bris? His bris was on Purim.
Yeah.
So no?
Okay, so we count from Zion, we count including Zion order?
Yeah.
Zion, Ches, Tes, Yud, Yud Aleph, Yud Beit, Yud Gimel, Yud Aleph.
Right.
Right.
His bris was on Purim. Now it says that if somebody's bris is on Purim, they should give them the name Mardechai. So the question is, so why didn't he get the name Mardechai?
Mm.
I mean, years before Mordechai
Okay,
Moshe
but
was.
that's so they say that Mordechai was that when was Moshe born? He was born in the 7th month. So he was born early, so probably the bris was a few days later.
Mm-hmm.
Which is,
That's the joke.
Mordechai Yehudi.
but really,
Exactly.
Mordechai got the name from Basti anyway, so a lot after she knew that it had to be the name that there should be named Mordechai.
And then Mordechai, that the Rebbe says in the more and the Chai, it's two different ceremonies.
Right.
And Purim is that's the Esther, the cover of Hashem. Says the Megillah doesn't have the name of Hashem even once. The whole
Right.
Megillah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
every time they
Esther,
say
that's-
Hamelech is going the Ebeshter.
right.
So in other words, not only that there's so many times the Hashem, Mamash in every second word is Hashem is there, but it's Esther.
So you have to start with Megillah that start
And
with
you have to Megale the
okay.
Esther that yeah.
So why Achashverosh gets such a thing that every melech there is a Kadosh Baruch Hu?
Why the word Achashverosh?
Why Achashverosh the king?
Yeah.
Why he get the schut that every melech there is a Kadosh Baruch Hu? It's a
Hamelech.
Achashverosh.
Hamelech.
Hamelech. He did something good. I don't know.
Yeah, he said Mordechai instead of the Jewish people.
And he has a child from Esther that had to be Beit HaMikdash. Yavish.
So I'm speaking before about Yoel Khan. So I don't know. You probably remember him. I don't know. I don't remember
I
him.
listened to Shiur, I remember him. I listened to Shiur.
Yeah, but I'm saying you. But I'm saying you like you're saying you went to Shaar.
I went to Shiur,
Okay, fine.
not I understood anything, but
And so they say that once his wife asked him to take out the garbage, and he came to 770 carrying the garbage. But then we lived next door, but it was still that he wants
I
to.
live in Montgomery and
Are you saying it was only later he lived next door?
in Kingston.
I thought it was next door, but
No, that only when he got old,
then he moved.
so they moved next to 70. But before that, it was Montgomery and
Right.
I remember his house. Montgomery and Albany.
So he was carrying the garbage.
No, and he said he instead of just putting it outside, he walked all the way to 770 carrying it. He used to he was in Kixitis the whole way. He lived in a
It was in Little Mazda, but it wasn't
it
a
wasn't anyone, so yeah. Yeah. He's coming up to Purim and then saying his Purim Farbrengens is normally recorded, but otherwise Shabbos Farbrengens, he would sit there for hours and hours. I heard from Fight 11 in Australia that he said there was once they were going through Farbrengen once, and he said he was sure the Rebbe said something in a certain order. Afterwards, Rabbi Khan said it in a different way, and he realized that he has a
He understood it.
yes. He said as he was remembering what the Rebbe said, he put it in where it fits in to make sense.
One of the most amazing with them, but since it's not right, it could be a Shabbos, it's on the Monday. So you have like three for bringers between Shabbos and Shmini Atzeres and Chastea. And after all this, after Motzei Yom Tov, you'll sit down and make Chazorah from everything.
Right.
Maybe the Mamor and maybe the Siches and everything. It wasn't a normal seichel to the capacity that he had. It wasn't a. I was keep reading so many times. He was writing for Chabad, different series, again and again and
Oh,
again.
amazing.
So geschmack, yeah.
How old was she? You're 90 something?
90.
Oh, one more we need to go.
The Rebbe for bringing some, the Rebbe for bringing 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours straight, right?
Yeah.
So you have to stay there over there to listen every word. But a human being need to go to the bathroom after 2 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours.
Right.
Not the Rebbe, Yoel Khan. The Rebbe Yoel Khan, right? Sending all the time. He got sick from that, Pasha.
Yeah, I thought that they said like Al Tzitzim didn't drink for like a week, like they Pasha didn't drink during the week. He's saying still.
What?
Yes, they said people Pasha didn't drink the whole week, so they
Or the Rebbe sometimes stood on a Sunday,
right. That's
8 hours straight, and so old.
but
He didn't go to the bathroom.
Label Gruner left in the middle.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah. He could. It's not there.
I don't know. I just never thought of like people say about Label Gruner that like Pasha he stood there for hours and hours and hours.
That's yes, but
Are you saying he did leave?
Human. Not Malach Elohim.
I agree. I know that.
You got 10.
You got exactly 10?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You want some John? Want to take some from Aaron? Doesn't need stuff yet, right? It's different John. What?
Please don't need so serious now. I think
Want to be a cousin from Aaron?
in like custody you have the rabbit started giving some further to the backroom.
Yes.
9 o'clock in the morning. Shabbos morning.
התינוק הוא חלבי. התינוק חלבי, הוא לא יכול.
מה, גור רחום, yeah. גור רחום, לך, קרוב נולד, נשב על הקנה,